Good morning, Newburgh Naz. Merry Christmas to you all from here at Mia's grandparents' house, sitting on the couch. We're so thankful that you have decided to join us this morning as we celebrate the fulfillment of our hope and of our expectation here on Christmas morning.
I'm sure you guys are at home with your families right now. Maybe you've just opened some presents or had brunch. We're hanging out with our family too. Grandma Peggy and Grandpa Gary are here. My mom and dad and my brother and sister are here. And so we want to take some time, since it is Sunday, to sing some worship songs, share some Christmas stories, and reflect on some scripture. But it will be a little bit different because we'll be virtual this morning. So consider this a relaxed, family-style church service from home.
God and sinners reconciled. Morning and Merry Christmas from our Newburgh Nez, especially from now our children's ministry. I wanted to take some time this morning to tell a story because Christmas is all about the story that we tell, the birth of Jesus. And so if you're like me, you're here and you're in your PJs and you're excited about all the presents and all the celebration and all the things we get to do around Christmas time. But I wanted to do a story that kind of tells us why and reminds us why we do all these things, why we celebrate Christmas and what's so important about it. So this morning, we wanted to come together, we wanted to settle in, we wanted to tell a story, Sounding Joy by Ellie Holcomb. So you can read along if you can try, or you can just listen to me and look at the pictures. Either way is fine. So here we go. What does joy sound like? Is it quiet, like snow? Does joy sound like the laughter of friends that you know? Is joy like the sound of a kiss on your cheek? Or like holding your breath when you play hide and seek? Maybe joy sounds real loud, like a hip hip hooray. Or a whispered I love you at the end of the day. Joy sounds a little like all of these things. But a long time ago, joy sounded like wings. If you can imagine, on a dark winter's night, the sky filled with angels, all shining with light. And suddenly, the shepherds and sheep down below were surrounded by songs from that heavenly host. Glory to God and peace to all men. And the angels, they sang it again and again. There's good news. God bent down low and sent his Son to make heaven our home. So every Christmas, we string up the lights to remember the way those angels shone bright. And we sing all the songs and we bang all the drums to remember the night that God sent his Son. Glad tidings, great joy, we are never alone. The songs will remind us we all have a home. So every Christmas, each girl and each boy can lift up their voices and repeat, Sounding Joy. The end.
Going their joyous ways. I'd like to tell a Christmas story that starts in the summer, and it started in a summer a long time ago, 1955. At that time, I was 9 years old, and that particular day in July, my brothers and I and my sister were coming back from a swimming session that we had in St. Charles County, and we pulled in the driveway at our house in St. Louis County, and there were cars parked everywhere, which was kind of strange. On a Saturday, we would not expect that. And as we were getting ready to get out of the car, my aunt came running to the car and leaned in. My older brother was driving and said, "Jay's gone." Well, I was sitting right behind my brother, and I knew where Jay was. He was in California. He was in the Marines, and he was very close to being discharged. And so Jay is gone made sense. That's where he was, and I didn't understand what she was saying, but my brother did immediately. He leaned over in the car, I remember, and leaned his head against the steering wheel and began to sob. And I was trying to put all this together, the cars and the announcement, and it didn't make sense to me right away. But as the hours went by, I began to realize that he had died in California. He was going to be discharged later that summer, and he and some of his Marine buddies were out on a leave from base. They were in a car accident. They were in a convertible. He was thrown out of the convertible, and he died that day. The next few days were kind of all a blur as all the neighbors and friends and relatives came in to try to bring us some comfort these difficult times. I didn't see my mom for several hours, for really a few days. But one afternoon I crept upstairs to the front bedroom and peeked around into the room, and I saw her there stretched out across the bed with her face buried in a pillow. Her two sisters were with her, and they were trying to comfort her, but she wouldn't be comforted. Her heart was broken. Jay was 19 years old when this happened. So we had the funeral for Jay. Mom didn't go to the funeral. It was a very hot summer day in July when we laid Jay to rest. Over time, folks left. The Marine escort that came with Jay's body, he went back to Camp Pendleton in California, and things began to kind of get back to normal. But they weren't quite able to do that, really. School started in the fall, and we found out later that Mom would get up and get us off to school, and then she would go back into bed, and we'd get up in the afternoon when we would be coming home to put things together for us for an evening meal. But that went on for months, where she was, I guess, depressed. Thanksgiving came and went. Nothing to remember about that. But Christmas 1955 was going to be different. We were sitting in our living room watching our little black and white TV, and we heard music, some songs being sung out on our front lawn one night in that December. And we invited the little choir in, and they sang Christmas carols. And I was sitting next to my mom, and I looked up, and there were tears running down her face. And I didn't understand why she would be crying, really. But as I look back on that night, I realized that this little choir from a nearby church was bringing Christmas to us that night, and really bringing Christ to us. we were being comforted by this little group, and I didn't really realize what was going on until later in life, but that was a special night when Jesus was brought to us by some caring Christian folks. So 1955 is a special year for that reason.
My heart is overwhelmed, and I cannot hear your voice. I hold on to what is true, though I cannot see. Storms of life, they come, and the road ahead gets steep. I will lift these hands in faith, I will believe. I'll remind
Well, of course, one of the most exciting things about Christmas is opening presents. And I have one right here, and I'm going to open it, and let's see what it is. Is it a basketball? A hockey stick? Ooh, it's a random box with something really cool inside. Ooh, it is baby Jesus. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever would believe in him would not perish, but have everlasting life. That includes the shepherds. It includes the wise men. It even includes Joseph and Mary themselves. And it includes you and I. All the other stuff that we do at Christmas, it's fun, but nothing is more important than believing in who Jesus is and what he has done for us. Let's sing together.
In the darkness we were waiting, without hope and without light, till from heaven you came running. There was mercy in your eyes.
One of the great Christmas texts that we have from the New Testament is John chapter 1. Very famous passage, right? In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning, and everything came into being through him, and nothing that has come into being came into being without him. But there's a very interesting verse that comes in right about halfway through in verse 14 where it says, "And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us." And I want us to sit with this verse this morning because there's a really powerful truth inside of here, but there's an even deeper reflection inside of it. And it all centers around this very Christmassy word that we hear around this time of year, Emmanuel. Now, many of you, probably all of you, know that the word Emmanuel means God with us. Some of you may even know that Emmanuel actually comes directly from the Hebrew, with the word Em being with, Manu being us, basically. And so when you put Em and Manu together, Imanu means with us, and then El is the shortened form of the word God. And so Emmanuel actually can be a small Hebrew sentence meaning God is with us, or with us is God, if you want to translate it super literally. And so Christmas is this time of celebrating that God is with us. And in Jesus, this takes on this new radical way of God being with us, in that God takes on flesh and dwells among us. And this is part of John's reflection in verse 14. But where's the deeper reflection with that? Why is it so important that God has now taken on flesh and is dwelling among us? Well, what's really interesting is when you start to look at the Greek of verse 14, you start looking at this word dwelling. This word dwelling is the Greek word skeneo. Try saying that 5 times fast. But it's this word dwelling, the NASB translates it dwelling. It probably better means God made his tent. God put up a tent and lived inside of it, and decided to dwell in that among us. And this is where I think John is inviting us into a deeper reflection. And the Gospel of John does this really well. You can almost think of John as like a commentary or an invitation to deeper reflection on some Old Testament truths. Because what I believe John is doing right here is pointing us all the way back to the Old Testament, pointing us all the way back to the book of Exodus, right? After God has given this immense measure of grace to Israel, he has said, I am freeing you from slavery. I'm going to be your God, and you're going to be my people. And what does God do after that? God says, I'm going to now enter into your reality, and wherever you go, I will go. And wherever you decide to be, I will decide to be. And the representation of that for the nation of Israel is what we call the tabernacle. And the tabernacle, for those who may not know, is basically a mobile temple. Right? There's a whole bunch of building instructions towards the end of Exodus for it, where it has to be the certain dimensions, made out of these certain things, but the tabernacle is really just a fancy word for a tent. It's a mobile temple representing that God's presence goes with the people of Israel, wherever they may happen to be. And there's this beautiful image at the end of the book of Exodus after they have set up the tabernacle, and there's a pillar of fire and smoke that comes and rests on top of the tabernacle, and you see that God's presence is now dwelling among the people. And hopefully now you're starting to make the connection between the two. You see, Jesus represents to us and manifests for us this God who throughout all of time and history has desired to be with God's people, has desired to live and to dwell among them. Whether it be Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, where God is walking around, the word can be translated there as like meandering slowly around in the garden, walking with Adam and Eve in the cool of the day. Or whether it's God setting up his new dwelling establishment with the people as they get ready to leave from Egypt and start walking into Israel, and the tabernacle goes with them. Whether it's the people living in the promised land, trying to set up a permanent established building. Whether it's people in exile who say, we don't have a temple, we don't have a tabernacle. Does God still go with us? Whether it's people who have come back and who have seen the temple and the tabernacle taken away from them. These people living under Roman rule that say, where is God now? John says to that, God dwells in flesh now among you. And friends, this is what we celebrate at Christmas, and this is why Advent, the preparation and the anticipation and the expectation is so important for us, because we wait and we prepare and we hope and we say, God, where are you? Do you still live among us? And John's reflection and John's answer to that question is yes. In the same way that God dwelt with the Israelites in the form of the tabernacle, and in the same way in the New Testament, God dwelt among God's people in the form of flesh. Jesus promised us that when he left, he would send to us the Comforter, the Advocate. And so on Christmas, we celebrate the entirety of God dwelling with us. The God who dwelt with the Israelites in the tent, the God who dwelt among us in flesh, and the God who we are preparing for to return, where we may dwell fully and completely in God's presence forevermore. And so I invite you this morning, wherever you are, to take some time of reflection with this word dwelling, this word setting up a tent, right? What does that mean for you and your family? As you guys prepare to open presents, or maybe you've already opened presents, maybe you're getting ready to go eat lunch or go eat dinner, or you're spending time together, what does it actually look like for God to have set up his dwelling, living among you and your family? What does it look like for your place of business, or for your school? What does it look like when you go and interact out in the world? Because again, remember, the tent is not a firm and established place, but it is the very presence of a God who goes with us. So I encourage you to spend some time talking, reflecting on these things as we continue to celebrate the presence of the God who put on flesh and dwelt among us. We just wanted to thank you again for being here and joining us for worship this morning as we kick off the start of the Christmas season. We hope that you'll join us in person next week as we continue to celebrate. I think it'll be day 8 of the Christmas season as we march towards Epiphany. But we hope that you have a very Merry Christmas today, that you enjoy the time with your family or with your friends or whoever you happen to be spending the day with. May the Lord bless you and keep you, and may the Lord make his face to shine on you. May he be gracious to you. May the Lord lift his countenance to you, and may he fill you with unending and overwhelming peace. Merry Christmas.
Merry
We'll
Christmas.
see you soon.
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Good tidings we bring to you and your kin. Good tidings for Christmas.